Felix Gold. We've been established for about 12 months on the ASX, listed in January 2022, and our strategy is for drilling of multi-million ounce resources in the Fairbanks district of Alaska. Next slide. I'll slip through those. Stick with this one. Just an overview of our three key points for this discussion today is that Felix is established and holds a large key strategic holding in the Fairbanks district of Alaska. We hold around 392 square kilometres of tenure in an area that's produced over 16 million ounces of gold production. We're strategically placed alongside a working mine, which is the Kinross-operated Fort Knox gold mine. It's a very large open pit, which has got an ore throughput of around 16 million tonne per annum processing facility. We're also adjacent to an emerging Tier 1 discovery or resource, which is owned by Gold Ventures, Canadian-listed TSX-listed company, which has just announced recently a 19 million ounce resource on their Golden Summit project. Felix's main area of interest, our key project at the moment, the Northwest Array deposit, is 20 kilometres from the operating hub of Fairbanks City. We also have ounces on the book. One of our projects is 364,000 ounces at 1.95 grams per tonne. Last year, our first year of operating in Alaska, we drilled 14,000 metres for 136 holes, and we defined mineralisation on the Northwest Array target over an area of 900 by 600 metres. It's open in multiple directions and at depth. It's indicating a thick, shallow body of gold mineralisation of robust open pit tenor. So this is down to around 100 metres. We have 7 other major target zones in the same area of the Treasure Creek project. And this year, currently underway, is a resource infill drill program. Next slide. Just quickly, 198 million shares on issue, market cap of around 15 million. Major shareholder is the Mine Discovery Fund. They're based out of Brisbane and they assembled the projects for Felix Gold. Next slide. Quickly, the board. There's quite a bit of experience on our board, both technically and commercial. Some guys there that have been in the industry for 20 to 30 years and some very well-known geologists who have been involved in some major discoveries globally. Next slide. Just skip through. Just to give you an overview of the Tintina Gold Belt in Alaska, where we're currently operating, and what drew us to this area was the potential. This area hosts some very large Tier 1 deposits. And you can see on the diagram box there that you have a 45 million ounce Donlin Creek resource to the far left of the screen, and then you've got a bunch of other resources throughout that belt, including the Pogo mine, which is operated by Northern Star at 7 million ounces. You've got Fort Knox adjacent to our area, which is a past mining and current resources of about 12, and the Golden Summit mine. Typical in this region that you don't find hundreds of thousands of ounces. If you get onto something, you're typically, looking at multi-million ounce deposits, and that's what drew us to this area. The larger names are working here. Barrick, Kinross and Northern Star all have operations in this belt. Next slide. Just an overview of our holdings. We have the dark grey boxes there in the diagram. A fairly dominant position in the Fairbanks district. It shows you how proximate we are to the Golden Summit project, as well as the Fort Knox mine, being sort of less than 20 kilometres to the east of our project area. This particular area of Fairbanks has produced quite a lot of gold over the years. Like I said, around 16 million ounces. And Felix is well established and strategically located in this belt. Next slide. Just to give you an overview of the infrastructure in the area, a lot of people have perceptions around Alaska being very remote, very difficult to operate in, and access is potentially quite difficult and remote. We don't have that problem. This is Fairbanks City. This is the main mining hub services centre for the Tintina Gold Belt. This is a modern city. It's 95,000 people in this borough. It's equivalent to Kalgoorlie. It houses all of our mining services, contractors, drillers, our own operating bases in this city. It is a 20-minute drive from Fairbanks to our flagship project on a bitumen road. So we don't have any issues at all in terms of operating. Next slide. I'd also just like to highlight the Fort Knox mine, which is 20 kilometres away from our areas. This has been in operation for 25 years. It's a huge bulk mining, open pit mine. They currently run through, or they have the potential to put through 16 million tonnes per annum. Head grade over the years has been between sort of 0.43 to 0.65. So even on very low grades, they are producing a very large amount of gold, and it's a very profitable operation. Again, only 20 kilometres from our doorstep, so there are potential synergies here. Next slide, please. Thanks. This is our flagship project, the Treasure Creek project. When we acquired Treasure Creek, we acquired it because it had strong historical evidence of a large-scale near-surface and at-depth gold system. There's been substantial alluvial and placer production through this area over the years. There's multiple gold and soil anomalies of greater than 1,000 metres. The Fort Knox type intercepts or mineralisation types are here on our project. There's strong untested geophysical anomalies here. So last year, as I said before, Felix drilled 14,000 metres over 132 RC holes and 4 diamond holes. It's a very successful program, and average depth of around 98 metres. But the results were the discovery at the Northwest Array target, which is to the top left-hand side of that box. And the majority of the drilling was done in the southern section of that target. And that is where we're currently working at the moment. Next slide, please. This is just an overview of some of the drill intercepts that we had last year. The kidney-shaped diagram to the right is the southern section of the Northwest Array target. We were getting intersections in here of 90 metres at 1.2 gram per tonne, including 60 metres at 1.6, another 90 metres at 1 gram per tonne, including 40 metres at 1.72. There's numerous 35 metre intersections of around 1.6 to 1.8 grams per tonne. So very consistent, shallow, strong widths of mineralisation in this area. Next slide, please. On the back of that drilling program, and with all the information that came through from assays, our geologists have constructed an exploration target on the global target for the Northwest Array area, which is in the red dotted outline there, 2 kilometres wide by around 1.6 kilometres deep. Based on our previous results and historical results through the area, we were able to calculate an exploration target in that gold box there of 76 to 92 million tonnes, grading between 0.4 to 1.1. Just in terms of calculation, there was a fairly wide spread on the grade there, which is to conform with ASX requirements, JORC requirements for these targets. Our average grade was about 0.8 throughout our drilling last year, and that equates to an exploration target in the red section of around 1.3 to 3.3 million ounces. Next slide, please. Within the global target, we've also calculated an exploration target for the southern section of this Northwest Array target. Within the pink dots there, the exploration target, 19 to 23 million tonnes, the same grade range. That gives us about 300,000 to 800,000 ounce potential just in this southern section. The reason we're concentrating here at the moment is that was where the predominantly our drill meters were last year. We have the most information on this section of the target, and our objective at the moment is to infill this and potentially put a maiden inferred resource on this project by the end of this year. Next slide, please. So what is happening right now? We've got a drill rig running as we speak. We're halfway through a 1-month program, so we have roughly 2 weeks to go on this program. We've currently drilled around 27 holes for around 2,500 metres. Our objective is to get it up to around 40 holes for 3,500 to 4,000 metres to give us that information to be able to put a maiden resource on the project. One other point I'd just like to make is that antimony is coming up in these drill holes. There's antimony in this gold system, and that is a very important critical metal in America at the moment. It's at the top of the American table for critical metals. And it is something that the US government is very interested in if we were, or anyone were to make a discovery. The US doesn't actually have their own sources of antimony at the moment, which does have applications for military hardware and well, specifically ammunition, and also fire retardant and other areas. But China and Russia are the biggest miners of antimony, and that doesn't sit well with the US. So potentially there is some antimony value in this project as well as the gold. Next slide, please. Just a quick overview of where our drilling targets are at the moment. It's probably not worth dwelling on this page other than to say that most of the action is on the left-hand side of the box, 3,500 metres in the southern section of the Norwest Array Zone. Next slide, please. Just again, touching on the antimony, it does exist on our project. We're not making any guesses here. It has been mined historically in the past, and we are seeing it in our drill rock or chips out of the drills. There was some historical mining of antimony here up to 58% grade, which is very high. It's pretty much a DSO product when it was mined. So again, it's up to us to be able to sort of get more information around how this presents within the system and the value to us. Next slide, please. I'll finish on this slide, but this is just an overview of 2023, a timeline. So the current drilling program is scheduled to complete at the end of June. Expect assays to start coming through roughly the same time, late June through to late July. Once we have all those assays in hand, we will be putting that into a new geological model and working through a resource for the project. And our objective is to have that out to market around September, October this year. I'll finish on this slide, and sorry if I rush through it a bit, but that's it in a nutshell for us.
Thanks, Anthony. Great presentation. We do have a stack of questions and we may not be able to get through to all of them, but we will do our best. Yep. Looking at the Kinross Fort Knox mine, what is the future there? And given where you're located, what do the synergies look like?
It's interesting to note with Fort Knox, they're very close to end of mine, probably within 5 years on their own reserves at Fort Knox. They're actively looking for new sources of ore. They did some M&A a couple of years ago, and they bought a project about 400 kilometres to the south, 1.3 million ounces, which they're currently planning on mining in 2024 and trucking it all the way up to Fort Knox. So that's 400 kilometre haul through communities and on public roads. So I guess in terms of synergies, if us being only 20 kilometres away, should we turn up a commercial resource, which we hope to do, I think it's quite logical that it'd probably end up at Fort Knox and save us $600-700 million in CapEx and infrastructure.
Now, just touching on 2022, obviously very busy, substantial drilling leading to an initial JORC-compliant exploration target at Northwest or NWRA. Can you give some additional colour around the delineation and your interpretation of the potential there?
Yeah, look, we think we've been quite conservative on this target. Our deepest drill holes last year were some diamond holes down to around 200 metres. So we've only taken the target down to 200 metres. And specifically, if we went back to looked at those slides, the maximum sort of strike extent is probably 1.6 kilometres, 2 kilometres wide. So potentially 3.5 million ounces in the larger target zone contained at 200 metres. But having said that, Fort Knox is currently deeper than 400, and the Free Gold Ventures resource is also much deeper, down to around 800 metres. So, look, we're not trying to overcook it here. We're just trying to be quite conservative, and the current sort of drill program, when that wraps up, will give us a bit more information around our modelling and our understanding of the geology to be able to say, is it 3 million or more? Or less?
You did touch on the substantial infill drilling program underway. How's it progressing, and are there any early takeaways?
Yeah, look, we're ahead of run rate at the moment. We're wanting to do 40 holes for 3,500 metres, and midway through, we're above that sort of run rate at the moment. Look, I don't want to give too much away, but it's looking to be fairly consistent with what we were seeing in the drill holes from last year, which is good, because it's holding together. And the other takeaway is that we are sort of visually seeing antimony or stibnite in the rock chips as well. So we'll have assays back shortly. That'll be the answer, and hopefully we're onto a good thing here.
And shareholders always ask the $1 million question, or in this case, the $2.8 million question. You recently completed a cap raising of that amount, $2.8 million. Does that now give you the balance sheet strength to drill through 2023 and into 2024?
That'll give us, we specifically raised that capital to get through this drilling program. We did it at a premium to the price at the time. We were well supported by existing shareholders and directors at 10 cents, and the budget is comfortably in hand for this program. It won't be for 2024, but it'll cover this year. If we need to do more, we always have the option to come back after this program and do another round of drilling. We'll have to address that at the time.
Anthony, great presentation. Clearly a big program ahead, which keeps shareholders and the market enthused with news flow to come. Exciting times. Look forward to following the story.
Thanks, David.